This video is going to be different. It's not one of those typical documentaries that you see from Project Shivoham. This is more of a question, a very pertinent and an important question to every Indian doctor. Before we get started, a very important message. All of us, the common people in India and around the world, we are eternally indebted to all the frontline workers, doctors, the medical staff, scientists, everybody. It is because of all your hard work and commitment, humanity is safe and sound, passing through the deadly pandemic. So with folded hands, paying my deepest respects to every Indian doctor, I would like to start this video. And equally important to mention that this video, there will be quite a heavy dosage of healthy criticism. But that criticism by no means is intended to disrespect or disregard any Indian doctor. But I want this message to reach out to each and every one of you because it is quite pertinent in more ways than one. So let's get started. Recently, the government of India changed the logo of the National Medical Commission by adding the image of Dhanvantari, an avatar of Sri Mahavishnu, at the center of the logo, as you can see here. For starters, NMC is the regulatory authority in India in the field of medicine, and it works in close conjunction with the Union Ministry of Health in Republic of India. And this change of the logo of NMC by introducing an image of Dhanvantari, an avatar of Sri Mahavishnu, at the center of the logo has sparked quite a lot of discussion and discourse. There are a lot of doctors, as we can see in the news, that oppose this move, saying that the logo of NMC should be secular, it has to be irreligious, so on and so forth. Some news snippets I added here. So this short video is about a very straightforward question to every Indian doctor, with all due respect, in this regard. Let's get started. Let me tell you a small story. Once upon a time, in a small town, there was a deadly disease that infected everybody across the board. From rich to poor, everybody fell victim to this contagious and deadly disease. And interestingly, a small fraternity of farmers whose livelihood is based on cows and bulls, they did not get infected with this disease. Because of the miraculous medicinal properties of the cow, they were saved from this pandemic. I'm saying it again. Because of the miraculous medicinal properties of the cow, this community did not get infected from the deadly and contagious disease. I know what many of you must be thinking by now, that it's some sort of Sanghi rhetoric about Gaumutra and medicinal properties of cow and whatnot. Hang on for a minute. I intentionally chose this example because this story will hold a mirror to ourselves as to how quickly we are jumping to conclusions these days based on narratives, based on impulses. Anyway, let me pull the cat out of the bag. The disease I was referring to is smallpox, and this is the history of how the vaccine for smallpox was discovered/invented by Edward Jenner in the 1700s. And the reason the dairy farmers whose life is dependent on the cows and bulls and the milk from them, they did not get infected with the smallpox because they grew immune to the disease as they got exposed to the cowpox disease that was quite prevalent in cows those days. So the natural antibodies or the defense that they got developed is inherited from the cows, and this fact is the foundational discovery for the vaccines that we are using today. And in Latin, the name of the cow is called as vacca. Hence, the name vaccine is derived from the Italian name or the Latin name for a cow, vacca, from which vaccine comes from. Now, the way I narrated the story previously already gave you indications that it's some sort of Sanghi rhetoric because it's associated with the cows, so on and so forth. So without even understanding the full context, we jump to conclusions. That's quite illogical. And that's exactly what's happening with the logo of Dhanvantari, which many doctors opposed, unfortunately, because probably they are not well aware of the history and scientific heritage of Bharat. I completely admit that I stand nowhere in front of their qualification and their service to the nation and to the people of this country. But when it comes to their stance on opposing the logo of NMC, I think people need a bit more insights into the history and heritage of Bharat in the field of medicine and life sciences. To take this a little further, if I say that we should not call vaccine a vaccine because it originates from the Latin word vacca, which means cow, and since cow is very sacred to Hindus, we cannot have any religious connotation behind the name of a medicine, then I'm sure you would say that, are you out of your mind? That's absolutely illogical. Why do you want to change the name of a vaccine? End of the day, it represents the heritage of how a vaccine was discovered/invented. It is just a token of heritage, right? Let's stick to the stance and move forward. So groups of Indian doctors and essentially the Indian Medical Association is opposing the logo of NMC with Dhanvantari, saying that it should not have any religious motives, right? Ironically, the logo of Indian Medical Association itself has a religious motive of Asclepius, a Greek god of healing and medicine. Basically, the snake coiled to a staff, it represents Asclepius. Like I said, it's a Greek god, and hence this insignia is blended into World Medical Association, World Health Organization, and Indian Medical Association just derived it from the larger international bodies, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with this. But when IMA itself has religious motives directly in its logo, why is IMA opposing NMC logo having Dhanvantari in it? So having a Greek god in the logo of IMA is okay, but having an Indian god in the logo of NMC is not secular enough. Well, I rest my case. Well, not so quickly. Let me take this a little further. Think why. Sushruta Samhita, Charaka Samhita, Ashtanga Hridayam, Patanjali Tantra, and many more Ayurvedic treatises given by Sushruta, Charaka, Vagbhata, Patanjali, etc. There is a long list of ancient scriptures which shaped the medicine and life sciences in the land of Bharat over hundreds and thousands of years. So Indian Medical Association celebrating Asclepius is good. But then why not celebrate Dhanvantari, Sushruta, Charaka, Vagbhata, Patanjali and centuries old tradition and heritage of Ayurvedam in Bharat? Not for its clinical validity, but for its scientific heritage. If we start discussing about Ayurvedam and the knowledge systems around the life sciences and medicine in Bharat, the list of ancient scriptures is very long, deep and complex. At the same time, I would also be very interested to understand what is the Greek contribution that has motivated us to adopt the insignia of Asclepius. End of the day, a logo reflects certain historical and heritage in that specific field, right? So I can put forward tons and tons of scriptures of Ayurvedam, which can be a source of inspiration. Again, I repeat the word, not for the clinical validity, but for the scientific heritage. Now, can you tell me what is the inspiration behind the Greek logo? Not sarcastically saying this, I really wanted to know, hence the question. And I'm not saying this lightly. I have been reading through the ancient scriptures pertaining to medicine and life sciences in the field of Ayurvedam. And I've been producing documentaries as to what is written in these scriptures. And here are 4 of my documentaries from Project Shivoham where I produce them, elaborating each of the scriptures. And all of them are currently streaming on this channel, Project Shivoham on YouTube. If you're interested, you can check it out. Let me handpick few instances for a good reason. If one really want to understand what is Ayurvedam in a nutshell, this is how it would look like. As part of Sushruta Samhita, there is a metaphysical context where Sri Mahavishnu narrates to Sushruta Maharshi as to how Ayurvedam need to be looked at. And here is what Sri Mahavishnu says. There are 8 specializations and 5 instructions and procedures, talking about various aspects like Salya Chikitsa, Shalakya Chikitsa, Kaya Chikitsa, Graha Chikitsa, Visha Chikitsa. They talk about different fields of specializations like dealing with poisons, surgery, physiotherapy, psychology, so on and so forth. And the instructions and procedures are Sutra, Nidana, Sharira, Chikitsa, Kalpa. So long story short, the compendium of the knowledge of Ayurvedam is structured quite well in this format. Now, leaving aside the metaphysical or the spiritual aspects, is this science or pseudoscience? That's quite a healthy discussion. If we downright say that this is a BJP and RSS propaganda, then I should call myself an idiot, because without even inquiring what is written in the scripture, I'm branding them in political colors. Certain political and religious ideologies often resort to these kind of jumping to conclusions. I don't want to name them, but as far as the medical communities are concerned, I think it is definitely essential for us to inquire and see how much of this is pseudoscience and how much of this is really scientific. And here is a jaw-dropping instance that I had in this regard. There are 2 scriptures, part of Shiva Puranam and Garbha Upanishad, part of Atharvana Vedam. These 2 scriptures elaborate about the embryology at unimaginable detail. Garbha Upanishad details out month-on-month evolution and development of the fetus, in which month what parts of the fetus gets developed. And in parlance of the modern science, the first account of embryology as we know today is given by Leonardo da Vinci some 500 years ago. But the oldest known manuscript of Sivapuranam, I repeat the word, it is the oldest known manuscript. That itself is 1,000 years old. Very important point here. Why are we always claiming things that are already discovered, saying that, oh, it is already written in specific Puran or an ancient scripture? Now here is an interesting aspect. Garbha Upanishad and Shiva Puranam both elaborates about month-on-month evolution of fetus, which exactly matches with the way we understand embryology and the month-on-month development of fetus. Almost the same. It will be fascinating if you really read through the scriptures. But there is one detail in both these ancient scriptures which is not in line yet with the modern medicine. That is, from 8th or 9th month onwards, fetus starts developing its own thoughts. There is a psychology that starts developing in the fetus already. And this fact is not scientifically proven yet. Fetus cannot think on its own. Now what I'm trying to say is this detail given in Sivapuranam and Garbha Upanishad correct or wrong? If it is put to scientific inquiry and if it turns out to be pseudoscientific, we should be happy to admit that Sivapuranam and Garbha Upanishad are pseudoscientific to a certain extent. But the problem is, if we don't even take care of these scriptures, we don't even take time to look into the scriptures and say that this is some sort of right-wing propaganda, that is where the problem is. And that is exactly getting reflected in the straight opposition to having Dhanvantari in the logo of NMC, unfortunately. Whether you like it or not, this is the fact. And just in case if we need Western validation to understand the Indian knowledge systems, then here is the news for you. Almost 150 years ago, the Garbha Upanishad, which deals about embryology, is translated into German by Paul Jusen. So I guess now people will start taking a little more interest, because now things will be interesting because the white sahibs are interested too. Listen to me very carefully. There is rising jingoism from the right wing on one side, and on the other side, there is this mental slavery or a colonial inertia in the minds of people. Both are two competing narratives. Saying that everything is written in our scriptures without even looking into the scriptures is stupid. And on the other side, opposing everything in the name of secularism is equally stupid. In Bharat, the knowledge systems have always been evolving and cyclical in nature. There is a long lineage of 28 Vyasa Maharshis, as we know today, who gave Vedas, Upanishads and associated scriptures over thousands of millennia. Now, if everything is written all at once, what are the remaining 27 Vedavyasa Maharshis were doing? So if one says blindly that everything is written in our scriptures, well, that's not right, because it has been an evolutionary process. And on the other side, blindly branding everything as pseudoscience without even looking into the scriptures is equally stupid. I hope I'm very clear with what I'm saying. There is another important aspect that we need to raise our understanding and awareness about. That is secularism. These days, everybody talks about secularism. We have to be secular, this, that, and all. What is secularism in first place? It is the separation of a church from the administration that originated in the West. That is the roots of secularism. Anyways, if you want to compare in that sense, the freedom of religion in Bharat, the words that we use is Ishta Devata. That means a god of your own choice. We don't care whom you worship. You don't want to worship, so be it. It's basically none of my business towards you and none of your business towards me. But when it comes to English, the freedom of religion is essentially represented with these two words, religious tolerance. Quite a negative connotation. Basically, you're tolerating someone in front of you who is not in line with your religious beliefs. Compare and contrast these two perspectives of Bharat from the West. Then you will understand. What is there in Bharat is pluralism. What's coming in from the West is religious tolerance. We do not need to be taught on freedom of religion, because from this country, many religions, including atheists and their schools of thought, have emanated. And this is an undisputable fact that while the whole world is killing each other in the name of who is God, in Bharat, we had discussions and debates about what is God. So again, just opposing the logo of Dhanvantari in NMC, well, that needs a deep thought, especially in the context of secularism. Let me bring out another instance. During the vaccine distribution with the vaccine Maitri or the vaccine diplomacy of Government of India, on the vaccine boxes, we have this Sanskritam phrase, Sarve Sam Tuniramaya, may everyone be free from disease and illness and live a healthy life. That's what it means. And these are the words said by Sri Mahavishnu to Garuda as part of Garuda Puranam. And this is printed on all the boxes of vaccination that has been donated to all the friendly countries of Bharat. And I'm really impressed by this move of the Government of India to uphold the cultural values of Bharat by printing these words, Sarve Santu Niramaya, from Garuda Puranam on the COVID vaccination boxes. And again, I can rightfully imagine this might sound like a Sanghi rhetoric. Hold on. So the insignia of the Army Medical Corps has the same phrase printed, Sarve Santu Niramaya. And this has been the case since many decades. So you mean the Indian Army is also Sanghi? This is exactly my point. People need more unbiased education towards the culture and heritage of Bharat. And unfortunately, it is not the case. And hence people are opposing these moves of having Dhanvantari in the logo of NMC. And few more instances for those of you who are opposing the logo of NMC. Satyameva Jayate, taken from the Upanishads in the logo of Republic of India. Yato Dharmas Tato Jayaha, taken from Mahabharat into the logo of Supreme Court of India. Yogakshemam Bahamyaham, taken from Bhagavad Gita, the word said by Sri Krishna Bhagavan, in the logo of Life Insurance Corporation. Shanno Varunaha, it's a Vedic hymn taken into the emblem by Indian Navy. So you mean all these institutions are Sanghi? They represent the deep cultural and spiritual heritage of Bharat. And same is the case that's going on with NMC. Maybe there could be politics involved with that, but I don't care about the politics. All I do care about is what is being done. Is it in line with the culture and heritage of Bharat or not? And when it comes to doctors, this is what the culture of Bharat says. Vaidyo Narayano Harihi. The doctor is a direct manifestation of Narayana himself. That is the highest level of reverence that the culture of Bharat gives to the doctors. So definitely a very important aspect for every Indian doctor to introspect on the opposition of having Dhanvantari in the logo of NMC. To conclude this short video, the bottom line what I want to say is, I'll be more happy and it makes more sense if we remove Dhanvantari from the logo of NMC. I'm saying it again. It will be more beneficial if we remove Dhanvantari from the logo of NMC, because the whole intent of having Dhanvantari in the logo of NMC is not that every doctor should start worshipping Sri Mahavishnu. Instead, having an inverted Aswadha Vriksham or a people tree is far more deep and inspirational to have it in the logos of both NMC and Indian Medical Association. Let me tell you why. Urdhvamulam adasyakham aswadham prahuravyayam chamdamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavit. These are the words of Sri Krishna Bhagavan explaining to Arjuna the entire core of all the knowledge systems. It is represented with an inverted tree where the leaves grow downwards and the leaves represent Vedas. This is very important to understand the analogy here. Vedas, which are considered as the highest form of knowledge, are compared with leaves. It essentially says that they evolve, they grow. So the knowledge systems of Bharat are not confined in a bounded book. It is open for continuous evolution, which is directly the case with any field of science and technology. And then he leaves this slokam with an open end, saying that the one who understands the roots of the tree, which are upward, will understand the secret of the Vedas. So just imagine having this kind of a inverted Aswadha Vriksham in the logo of Indian Medical Association or National Medical Commission. It essentially reflects why Bharat has been called as a Veda Bhumi. You don't need to worship Dhanvantari or have Dhanvantari in the logo. It is better to have something that exactly reflects the culture of Bharat, and do not just copy blindly what the West has been doing. You don't have to brag yourself about Bharat, but at the same time, not let yourselves into that mental slavery of the colonial inertia. I've gone very detailed, but that's for a good reason. I wish this video reaches every Indian doctor and motivates them to think about the topic that I just spoke about. And especially young boys and girls who are pursuing medicine, the fresh blood that defines the direction of medicine and life sciences in India. I want you to think about it and eventually shape up your opinions. And as always, thanks for watching.